What's going on, beautiful people? Welcome back to Game Day Grace, the podcast where faith and sports unite in powerful conversations. If these are conversations that you particularly enjoy, consider hitting the subscribe button or follow button wherever you are getting this podcast right now. Our main platform is YouTube, but we are also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you enjoy this particular conversation today, we'll be talking about fasting as well as covering playoff games. I just covered an NFL playoff game. Cory just covered a college football playoff game. If that's something that you find particularly interesting, consider sharing that with a friend or family member because one share can change a life. We like to call this the believer's bench because when you sit down on the bench, that's where you do most of the talking. So there's nothing wrong with being a bench warmer for the Lord to sit down and fellowship. So that's what we do. It's just Cory and I today. And Cory, like I mentioned, we're talking playoffs. Both the teams we cover lost. So I'm sure we have our own, rants about that. But I'll let you start with Texas and covering that, which thankfully was right up the road for y'all. You didn't have to go too far. But, yeah, I don't know what Sark was thinking. That's all I'm going to say. I'm gonna let you take it from there.
Yeah, I didn't have to go too far, but still had to do some weather coverage because it was up there in Dallas for the Cotton Bowl, Arlington to be exact. And we got there Wednesday, but they had a big snowstorm Thursday night. And so our boss was like, yeah, you'll be up there for the Cotton Bowl, but I'm going to need some weather hits out of you. So with Weatherman Mose, put the hat on and did my thing out there in the snow. But yeah, when it comes to the game, though, I mean, it was something that coming to it, I honestly didn't know what to expect because I didn't know what Texas we were going to get when it comes to the Cotton Bowl. And, Ohio State was coming in as that juggernaut that no one could stop, thrashing people, and Jeremiah Smith looked unstoppable. But, I don't like it either. But I think if you're thinking about it from Sarkisian's mind, he watched a lot of film in the red zone area. I know he did. And so, like I said, if you watch Ohio State's game against Oregon, they stopped them on the one. They stopped Penn State on the one. They stopped Nebraska on the one because all three of those teams tried to run it up the gut and it didn't work. And so I'm guessing Sarkisian was like, we just can't run it up the gut. After he tried it on first down, he's like, all right, that's my one try. I tested it. What I've seen on film is true. Let's try to attack the edge. And I think that's what happened. Now, Caleb Downs made a phenomenal play. I think no one's giving him enough credit for shooting the gap. Dude looks like Troy Polamalu out there, shooting the gap and stopping the run like that. But do I like it? No. I think Arch Manning should have got a shot. It worked earlier in the game. I don't know why not run it again. I think Quinn should have recognized you're outnumbered. There's not enough hats on a hat. Kelvin Banks, he's the guy that pulled in the left tackle position, and he actually pulled and got his man, and he talked about it post-game. We talked to him, and he's like, I did my job. Like, the whole play call is a pull. I get the outside linebacker, and then Trey's supposed to come underneath me. But when I pulled and got my block, I hear and I see Caleb Downs screaming through the gap. And that's just something we didn't prepare for because there was no person responsible for Caleb to block. So, yeah, I just think they should have audible out of that play. There just wasn't enough bodies to block everybody in the box. And who knows? Just a mistake by Quinn, mistake by Sark, or just a great play by Caleb Downs.
Either way, I'm not shocked Sark called that play because that's what he do. Saw it for 2 years with the Falcons. Seen it myself. That man ran a jet sweep on a 4th and goal against the Patriots.
No way. What?
Yeah. You won't be surprised to find out it didn't work. It didn't work at all.
Who did you give it to? Muhammad Sanu?
No, he gave it to Taylor Gabriel, who was a very, very fast receiver.
Electric. He's electric for sure.
Yeah, but why? Like,
yeah,
that was my thing. Like, for what though? Like, why did you do that? 4th and goal from the one. In the revenge game, that was the game after, like, that was the first time the Falcons had seen the Patriots since the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? In front of the whole world, not the world, but the nation at least is watching. The whole world saw the Super Bowl. The nation is watching this to see if the Falcons are going to get some vengeance, and they did not. Like, the Falcons actually didn't score until garbage time. That's how bad that game was. Yeah, they scored one touchdown. They came in garbage time, and that was the one play, like, that's when Julio snatched the ball out of Malcolm Butler's hands.
Yes.
That's where that came from. Yeah. But that touchdown literally meant nothing. Like, it was like, yeah, it wasn't fun. Take us behind the scenes a little bit from your perspective, just on covering a playoff game. So, like, what does that look like in terms of getting the access? What did that look like? That whole scene, because everybody saw the game on TV. What they don't see is everything, you did to get to your seat.
Yeah, so game day specifically, we're there all week doing like media day stuff. And so for specifically game day, we had to actually go live we had a 4 o'clock show.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to do a hit in the 4 o'clock show. So we were at the stadium, I think 2:30. Kickoff's at 6:30. So we're talking like 4 hours before the game. We at the stadium. Nobody there. But Kilgore Rangerettes are out there warming up, doing a little thing for the halftime show. But yeah, we had a 4 o'clock hit and we had a 4:30 30-minute special. So we were preparing that all week, getting sound bites for the 30-minute show, and then of course like finishing our packages for the show. And once 4:30 hit, yeah, we're live doing our 30-minute show. By that time, the players were getting onto the field, walking onto the field. Steve Sarkisian was doing his interview with ESPN and Laura Rutledge. And we do the 30-minute show. After that, 5 o'clock, we got a 5 o'clock hit. And by that time, the players are out warming up on the field. So, we're referencing the guys behind us. So-and-so expect to have a good game tonight, or he's going to have a big matchup against Jeremiah Smith, and so that's what we were doing for the 5 o'clock. And the game starts at 6:30, so we did a reported 6 o'clock sports hit, just because we knew we weren't going to have a access on the field after 5:45, because that was a college football playoff rule. So they kick us all off the field at 5:45. I'm bad with it though. I'm not gonna lie to you, like following rules. So I stayed out there till probably like 6:15, getting some video. There's a big kicking controversy if Bert Auburn was going to kick after he missed those two in the last matchup against Arizona State, and turns out he didn't. He didn't kick. There's actually the backup started, so I was getting video of those two warming up, and then of course getting video of Ohio State guys and stuff like that. So that's what you're doing before kickoff, and then eventually you go up to the press box and you find your seat. Which, by the way, whole debacle in the press box. Wasn't enough seats.
Oh my gosh.
Couple affiliations didn't have seats assigned to them, because these assigned seats. So I know we brought 4 people and we only had 2 assigned seats. And so my sports director got one, of course. And then we have a girl on our staff, Ann Parker Coleman. So, being a gentleman that I am, let her sit down. And so, yeah, I was standing up for the whole first quarter, I would say.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, like I said, a whole debacle. And then eventually one of my homies who's a writer on the beat, he had an open seat next to him. And I was like, hey, did so-and-so show up? He's like, I think he's on the field. I said, okay, but I'm just going to sit down here then. So I had to finesse the seat, and by second quarter. And as you know, it kind of messes up my rhythm of covering the game, because you got to have your laptop out, trying to take notes. So I'm over here standing up on my little notepad, trying to take notes, trying to look over people, trying to watch the game. So yeah, it was food was great. Dallas Cowboys, shout out Jerry, media food was solid. After I got done with the fast, so, and that was the day I got done with the fast, Friday. So
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not gonna lie, Jerry had that. I don't know what recipe they got for that mac and cheese, bro.
Yeah.
But I almost texted my mom. I was like, hey, mama, you got some competition. Not gonna lie to you. That was literally the talk of the whole press box. What is in this mac and cheese, bro? But yeah, so my fast ended at 7. And so I did wait. When I got up to the press box, game kicked off, everyone's eating food. They're like, you gonna get your plate? I was like, got about 30 more minutes. And I was praying they didn't put the food up. Sometimes they be putting the food up. Yeah. So I took a little bit of a risk, because my homie was like, just make a plate and save it. I was like, nah, I don't want it to be cold by the time I start eating it. So thank God.
Yeah.
He provided.
That's crazy, bro. Well, I'm glad yours is over. Mine's still going on. We still got a week and a half.
Yeah, you still got a minute.
Still got a week and a half. Mind you, you had one small meal a day. That's what you were doing. Mine is not that. I don't know how I was going to be able to do that. So props to you for that. Mine is I'm not eating food that does not come from my house.
Okay.
So
Wait, so how does that work with media food?
yeah, so that's the thing. I had to basically stuff myself with I had like this big old thing of like barbecue, meatballs, mashed potatoes, and green beans.
Solid.
So like very filling foods, right?
Yeah.
Before going to the game. And so that was like, I got to do that before I get to the game. And then once I'm there, I'm only drinking water too. So that's the other part, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, all right, I'm not drinking anything other than water. I'm only having things that come from this house. I'm not really on social media unless it's work hours or I'm posting for this. No secular music and no sweets, like no dessert, you know. So that's what we're doing. It's a 21-day fast for our church,
Yeah.
and they allowed us to pick the terms of our fast because the whole point is you need to fast from things that are distractions. You need to fast from things that are, you know, taking your mind off God kind of thing. And so, you know, old school, some churches will just throw you on a fast. Like, all right, y'all, for the next 10 days, everyone's eating nuts and berries and drinking water. And it's like, dang, you know what I mean? Like, wait a minute, you know what I'm saying? So, some churches do that, but I think it's cool to tell people like, hey, you need to be honest with yourself. Ask yourself what is distracting you. You know, something. In fact, the note here has because we talked about it yesterday at church or Sunday at church because the time this comes out is gonna be Wednesday, but breaking the fourth wall, it's Monday. At church on Sunday, it said identify where your flesh has the final say. And whatever it is where you are like, yeah, whenever my flesh wants to do whatever it is and I just do it, that's the moment where your flesh has the final say. And that's the thing that you need to be fasting from. And so if your flesh is always like, you know what, every time I have a savory meal, I want something sweet. That was my thing. And it was like, okay, well, then you need to cut out sweets and see, you know, because that's part of the process of crucifying the flesh. You know, the scripture doesn't just say, you know, it does say deny. It does say deny yourself. But also, like, it does give a very specific instruction that the flesh must be crucified. Not conquered, but crucified. Which, I don't know if you've been following this whole thing with Wes Huff and Billy Carson. I don't even know if you know about that. All right, so real briefly, Wes Huff is an apologist. He's a Christian apologist, and he's like the head honcho of like the Canadian Apologetics Commission or something like that, right? Real nice dude, right? Real nice dude, swole, like, but he just like, he real kind, and he's got this accent. I can't really understand what, like, I don't know what country it is because his bloodline just got all kind of stuff in it.
Okay.
All right. Billy Carson is a brother, right? He's a brother. But Billy Carson is very anti-Christian. He's like a conspiracy theorist, if you will. I think he believes in aliens, you know, this whole thing. And he has a huge platform where he discusses all of these things. And I mean, he throws all kind of stuff out there undermining the Bible. He has a debate with Wes Huff. All right. Wes Huff destroys him. Okay, and I'm talking about like what Kendrick did to Drake. Okay, he destroyed him so bad that Billy Carson sent out a handwritten cease and desist letter.
No.
And then when they didn't respond to that, had his lawyer send another cease and desist letter because he didn't want the debate published on YouTube.
Oh my.
That's how bad he lost. Yeah, like Wes Huff destroys him, bro.
Yeah.
Because Billy Carson's whole thing was in the Sinai Bible that predates the King James, the crucifixion is not in there. Jesus isn't crucified. So Wes Huff pulls one of the biggest boss moves I've ever seen. Dude reaches behind him and grabs the Sinai Bible. Who the heck just got a Sinai Bible?
All right, let me check that. Let me fact that. You got a second?
He said, can I ask you a clarifying question? He said, sure. He said, when you say the Sinai Bible, are you referring to Codex Sinaiticus? And they start saying words I don't even know now. He said, yeah. He said, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. He said, okay, I actually got a copy of it right here. He opens it up and he goes, yeah, if I go to this page right here, I find it really interesting. Like the crucifixion is in here. Like it's right here on this page. So I'm a little bit confused as to which Sinai Bible you're referring to. And Billy's like, oh, I misquoted. I misquoted. But what's crazy is Billy's excuse was, man, I was sick. I wasn't feeling good, man. Yeah, okay, I slipped up and I said something wrong. But that somebody pulled up all the clips of every podcast he had ever been on where he said the crucifixion is not in the Sinai Bible. So he had said it when he was perfectly healthy on the Joe Rogan podcast, on somebody else's show, on his own YouTube, whatever. He had said this thing so many times, right? So now he's talking about, okay, my bad. I meant the Gospel of Barnabas. So then Wes goes, okay, about the Gospel of Barnabas, that's a known forgery because it basically quotes Dante's Inferno. Like, essentially just like a remake of Dante's Inferno. So like he is everything Billy says, he just like, I got a counter for that, bro.
Yeah.
Like he whoops this dude. And the reason I bring that up is because when you talk about the crucifixion, right? Historians, the majority of historians agree on two things, essentially. There's really like five, but like the main two things, regardless of religious affiliation, that these historians agree on is that Jesus lived and died by crucifixion under Pontius Pilate. That's it. Mm-hmm. You don't have to believe in his miracles. You don't have to believe in his resurrection, but at least historians agree he lived and he died by crucifixion under Pontius Pilate. The reason crucifixion is so important, and Wes Huff broke this down. He got on the Joe Rogan podcast after that debate and was telling Joe Rogan about this. He said, at the time, crucifixion was a way to kill the lowest of the low. Like, that was for people who were slaves. Like, if you died by crucifixion, they really thought absolutely nothing of you. That was not an honorable way to die at all. It was not an honorable way to go out. It was not. It was actually one of the worst ways to go out because it's humiliating and it's excruciating. Like, it is for the lowest of the low, the kind of death crucifixion is. And then to see kind of like the juxtaposition of how much that actually meant for us as believers, but at the time they really were like, nah, we're killing Jesus in the lowest form possible, right? Like, it's super inhumane. When you talk about crucifying the flesh, right, you're treating the flesh when you crucify it as if it is the lowest of the low. So when you have like the works of the flesh, Galatians 5:19, which is that's the chapter and verse that pulled me out of my super flesh season where my flesh was the Lord of my life at the time. And it talks about the works of the flesh being sexual immorality and impurity, sensuality, idolatry, sorcery, enmity, strife, jealousy, fits of anger, rivalries, dissensions, divisions, envy, drunkenness, orgies, and things like these, which means there's a whole bunch of other nasty stuff that they could have said, but they was like, yeah, things like that. Right? All of that stuff is the lowest of the low and deserves to be crucified as if it is the lowest of the low, because that's what crucifixion is. And so during this fast and during this this time of prayer, you are trying to crucify whatever fleshy desire has been distracting you from spending quality time with God and being in what they're calling it the sweet place, being in the sweet place with God, like just being in this awesome place, like you're on cloud 9 with him, right? And so if it's like always gratifying when your flesh wants dessert, or your flesh always wants to post something on IG because you want the likes, whatever it is, your flesh has the final say on whatever. And that's why it has to be crucified as if it is the lowest of the low, because it is, because the works of the flesh produce death. And so
that's something I recognized during the fact, 'cause I gave up social media too outside of work. And, it always like blows my mind when I catch myself trying to tap on the app when the app's not there.
Yep.
Because you deleted it. I'm like, I have a problem. Like that. Those are always those moments where it's like, bro, I got to do better. There's no
Mm-hmm.
way this app or this phone controls me that much. Well, I'm not even cognizant of scrolling through, pressing on a certain area that I'm usually supposed to, well, not supposed to, but I usually press on a daily basis, and that isn't there. And I didn't recognize it until it wasn't there. I think that's something that I like. First day of the fast was like, what? My goodness, I'm glad I'm doing this. And that's kind of accelerated the process of I didn't want to just do social media. I also stopped playing the game for the week, and I felt like that
Mm.
was going to be, that's been an issue, coming home from work and, maybe when not even just spending time with God, but like just taking care of the temple that God has blessed us with
Mm-hmm.
and going to sleep instead of staying up an extra hour or two on the game. Like those are the type of things that I also took into consideration during the fast of how am I not taking care of this body that He's blessed me with and that my Holy Spirit lives in and dwells in. Um, I think that was the reason why I wanted to get away from the secular music as well. When it comes to my thoughts and just how my spiritual nature works throughout the day whenever I listen to non-secular music all day and I can just feel uplifted and positive and my mindset and thoughts are just more positive and I'm not as easily bothered. It just amazes me how when you take these steps each and every day to seek after not only Christ but his righteousness, then he blesses that tenfold. And that's just something I experienced all week this week. Even despite not eating as much, I had a ton of energy. I was still able to beat myself throughout the media day coverage, with all the weather happening. Had one of the best weather hits. Shout out to you as well. You do your thing. I'm just trying to be like you when I grow up,
All
bro.
right, all right.
So, and like I just think those small things, they all play a factor though into how you taking care of your temple and how you taking care of your spiritual self. And the fast helped out tremendously with that this week. So I'm just grateful I did it. And now it's like, okay, just because the fast is over doesn't mean like you just dive back into what you were doing. Like God revealed something to you. Let's keep it going, keep the momentum.
Yeah, man. Praise God. I'm glad you got the results that you were looking for from that too. Because that's the whole point, right? It's just really just it really helps with discipline.
And I will say this the message we had on Sunday
Mm-hmm.
was about Simon the Cyrene,
Yeah.
and taking up. It's funny you brought up that verse about taking up your cross daily, but you said the first part of the verse.
Oh
Um,
yeah. 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 Deny yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You said the first part of the verse, and then our message was about the second part. But uh, I thought that story, and finding out things about Simon, and the funny part is we don't know much about Simon. He's just a guy that was on the side of the road that the soldiers told him to take up the cross and carry it. You
Mm.
know, and we don't know if he wanted to. We don't know if he was forced to. We don't know if he was like, yes, get to take up Jesus' cross. Or like,
Yeah.
dang, are you serious, bro?
Yeah.
Y'all gonna kill me if I don't. But as historians have looked and, if you continue to read throughout the Bible, two things from Simon is that he's from Rome, and he has two sons, one of them named Rufus. And later, Paul sent a letter to Rufus, and he was saying how I appreciate what your mother did for me. This is Paul talking, and showing motherhood to me, basically being a mom to me. And so then you kind of put the pieces together, and it's like, okay, well, this guy named Rufus is the son of, we know from Simon. Paul is messaging Rufus. So put the dots together. It's like, man, Simon's wife was like a mother to Paul. And so it's like, I'm sure he was exhilarated when the soldiers told him, hey, carry Jesus' cross. And to think about that and to ponder that, the conversation in our sermon turned into like, what is your motivation when you try to be obedient and you try to practice discipline? Are you excited to do it, or are you just doing it just because you're told to do it? And I think that's something that I had to take a step back and really consider because, there's a lot of things that like waking up earlier to get into the word, like, um, heck, making time for the pod. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that is always like, check yourself, check your motivation, check your heart. Uh, because yes, it's great to do these things, even if you don't want to, but I want to do these things. Like I want to do godly things, and so I think those are always a telltale sign of how your spiritual nature is at that point. If your motivation behind it is like, dang, I got to do it, or like, yes, I get to carry Jesus' cross miles, even though it's going to be tough, but it's Jesus. But you serious, dude? Like I get to cover Jesus Christ, get to carry this all the way down. So yeah, I just thought that was a cool story on Sunday about Simon and figuring more things about who he is as a person, who he was as a person. And historians don't know much, but they do know that. And it's fair to say that he was excited to do something that probably a lot of people would have dreaded to carry.
Yeah, man, that's big time. That's big time. That's a good message too, bro. That's good. I like
No, it
that.
was cool, bro.
Yeah.
I like learning. Like I like learning history about the Bible in church
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of the sermons, I feel like sometimes you hear the same couple of verses, as the years go on and the timing of things. Every fast is typical, verses that I feel like a lot of preachers bring up during a fast. And of course, the crucifixion is one of those. But every time you hear something that you've heard before, but then learn something new, I love that. I
Yeah.
absolutely love that,
Oh yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
I love that.
Take me to school. Yeah.
Yeah,
Take
man.
me to school. I'm all for that. Take me to school, bro. So yeah.
What's something you learning right now in the fast?
Right now that I'm learning,
Yeah.
that I don't have to always go get something to eat.
Mm,
To be honest with you, because
okay.
that had been a thing. It was always like, all right, I'm going to Bucks practice. Can't wait to see what they serving up. I'm going to this. I can't wait to see what they. Like, oh, I get to go get something to eat. That's all I was thinking about. Like, oh, I get to go get something to eat.
Hmm.
I don't always have to go get something to eat. I really don't. I've got there's plenty of stuff here, and the Lord will give me strength. Like I really don't have to rely on natural food all the time to have the strength to do my job. I can do my job. I also just don't. There's no reason for me to be scrolling on anything.
Yeah.
There really isn't. I gain nothing. I might send a couple of memes or whatever to the homies, but I don't think anytime I've ever fasted from social media, I never come back thinking, oh man, I missed a whole bunch.
Yeah.
I've never thought that.
I agree.
Not once have I ever left social media and been like, man, I missed a lot. No, I really didn't. To be honest with you, the first time I did the secular music fast, it was really hard. It
Mm.
was very hard. This is actually way easier. And I think that's because I've just gotten used to not really listening to it anyway, ever since that first fast, which was 30 days. I got past those 30 days, and it was like, man, there were periods where I went back, but I don't really have the same appetite for it. It's kind of
Oh
like,
my God, that's a perfect word, appetite.
yeah, I just
I
don't
literally
have.
went through that today, this morning, driving to that press conference.
Mm-hmm.
So my shuffle just started playing when I connected to the Bluetooth, and I forgot what it was. Actually, no, maybe Billie Eilish.
Mm-hmm.
Shut up, I do got a weird genre, or array of music, but I'm like, I don't want to start my day like this. I literally said that, like, I don't want to start my day like this. I changed the song, changed it to my new age gospel playlist. But yeah, the appetite is different, bro. I
Yeah.
also during the fast, I didn't listen to sports podcasts.
Oh, okay.
I felt like that also was, you brought up how, what is your flesh keeping you away from God about, and I felt like my flesh would crave sports podcasts. So like in my mind, over the last like 5 or 6 months, like I started to get real big into sports podcasts just to hear people's opinions and stuff like that. But I felt like that was also a way of, like, I could have been using that time to listen to God or listening to Christian podcasts or
Mm-hmm.
Christian sermons. So I was like, you know what? If I'm going to do this fast, like, let's do it. Like, no secular music and no Christian, no sports podcasts.
Yeah.
So that was low key kind of tough. I think that was more tough than the secular music, was not to listen to my typical sports podcast, because I usually feel that as a way of like, oh, I'm not listening to secular music, I'm listening to sports podcasts. That's how I used to tell my mind and I guess trick myself. But like now I'm just like both of them. It's kind of like I can fill my mind and fill my spirit with something else.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. That's the whole point. I can do something else. I don't have to do what I've been doing. You realize you don't have to, and then you just don't have the appetite for it anymore, right? It's the same as when people stop eating fast food. Like, oh, okay, I don't have to pull up and get the 4 for $4. I don't. And then before you know it, someone's like, hey, you want to go get a 4 for $4? And your stomach hurt. It's just thinking about it. I'm like, nah, I don't do that. It's not good pastors will tell you it's not a heaven or hell issue to fast or not, but good things do come when you fast. But it's not a don't make it seem like this is a salvation versus not saved issue. It's not, but it is a good thing to practice when you need to hear from the Lord and you need to clear out distractions. That's how I got my job in Tampa Bay. I was fasting from pretty much everything, like TV, music, movies, everything. The only thing I had for entertainment was gospel music, sermons, and Pat Summitt's autobiography. Those are the only three things.
It's fire, by the way.
Which is fire. Yeah. It is fire. Those were the only three things that I had, and based on that, I was able to clear out everything because I did not want the voice of God to be diluted with whatever else I had, entering my ear gates, essentially. Mm-hmm. So I was able to hear from the voice of God very clearly. There were days where it was like, I need you to get up right now, and I need you to like shower, get ready, and I need you to go to the station, talk to the news director, or I need you to make this phone call in the next 5 minutes, or I need whatever it was, and I followed everything. I was obedient. That's how I landed my job here in Tampa by fasting. But it's not a, like I said, it's not a salvation issue. But it is something that is a good discipline and can lead to results in your life. It may not always be a new job or a promotion, but it could increase your discipline in one area, which just provides spiritual growth. So that's essentially the whole point. And that's what I'm getting out of it. That's what Cory's getting out of it. And I'm going to fast from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because they're out of the playoffs. So I'm also fasting from that.
You gonna go on that rant?
Yeah, I'll end it. I'll end the pod with this right here. Cory, what is the name of the Washington punter? What's his name?
Washington punter.
Yeah, who's the Commanders punter?
No idea.
I don't know either because he didn't punt. He never took the field. Yeah, I don't know his name either. Not once did that man take the field. The Commanders never punted on Sunday night.
Now you got me thinking, bro.
Because they were 8 for 15 on third down, and when they didn't convert, they went for it on fourth 5 times and converted 3. So Tampa Bay was not able to get stops. They did get a goal line stand. Mm-hmm. They stopped the Commanders twice with goal to go, and gave up a total of 3 points in those situations. So the goal line stand was great. However, you didn't get those types of stops on the negative side of the field. You always got them when they were deep into Tampa Bay territory. So you're not getting stops at the right times, right? You're getting stops eventually. You're just letting them bleed yards, but they also were bleeding clock when they did that. The Commanders had the ball for 11 more minutes than Tampa Bay.
Crazy.
So they're
supposed to be playing hurry up. That's the crazy thing.
Right. So they basically took the Saints game plan from week 18. We're going to take what the defense gives us. We're going to bleed yards. We're going to bleed clock. And to be honest, the Tampa Bay offense was one of the best in the league this year. They were top 5 in passing and rushing. They were one of the best offenses, one of the most complete offenses without Chris Godwin. I don't care if you are the greatest show on turf or the 2007 Patriots. You can't do anything on the bench. The best offenses in NFL history cannot score when they are sitting on the sideline watching the other team have the football. And that's what Washington did. The other team had the football. And then when the Bucs finally did get the football with the lead in the fourth quarter with a chance to extend that lead, they fumble a snap. They try to get cute. They try to run a jet sweep. They don't get a clean exchange. It fumbles. It's picked up by Washington inside the Tampa Bay 15-yard line. And then a few plays later, you got a touchdown to Terry McLaurin. And then the Bucs are behind the sticks.
That's the backbreaker, I feel like.
And yeah, because Washington is that team. And I posted this. Washington is a team where if you make a mistake in the fourth quarter, they will beat you. That's how it goes. If you make a mistake, fourth quarter, if you do something silly like the Bears, right?
Yeah.
You want to dance in the end zone because you think the game is over? Okay, bet. We're going to connect on a Hail Mary. If you're the Eagles and you want to drop a first down pass that would have put the game away, okay, cool, we're going to beat you. If you're the Falcons and you don't want to call a timeout in the last 30 seconds, all right, we'll take that. Appreciate you. And then the Bucs, you want to get cute and fumble the ball inside your own 15-yard line, okay. Like,
the Cowboys in there too, week 18.
You want to make a mistake?
The boys march down the field. Terry McLaurin shut them out.
So it's like the margin for error is like this when you're playing the Commanders, especially in the fourth quarter.
Did y'all talk to Baker after the game?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the whole thing the snap was too early.
Yeah.
That's a rookie center, by the way. Graham Barton out of Duke. He snapped it too early. It threw the whole play off. Ended up being a loss. They had to settle for a field goal, which allowed them to tie the game at 20. But they never got the ball back. There were 4.5 minutes left, and Tampa Bay never got the ball back, which was you got to give credit to Washington and Jaden Daniels because they were like, all right, thanks, but you're not gonna get this ball again. Like that's the thing. Like the Commanders are a team where if you make a mistake in the fourth quarter, they're gonna say thank you very much. We're now going to beat you. Like, that's just how it goes, man. That's how they've been in the last month or so. And we saw the foreshadowing of that when they had the Hail Mary against the Bears. So, Bucs are done. They're out. They've got a core, right? You got Baker Mayfield locked up. Baker Mayfield is locked up. Mike Evans ain't going nowhere as of right now. Bucky Irving just had one of the greatest rookie seasons that we've seen in Tampa Bay in a long time. Chris Godwin, he's going to be a free agent. We'll see if you can get him back, especially coming off, the broken leg or broken ankle. And then you've got K. Dotton, the young tight end. He's really good. So like you have your offensive core, and your offensive line is pretty much solid.
Yeah, solid.
So you've got a solid offensive line because you drafted pretty much all of those guys. The only one you didn't draft will be entering free agency, but they're probably going to sign him back.
Didn't the Stinger get hurt at the beginning of the year though? Or did
one of the guards did. One of the guards got hurt. Yeah, so one of the guards did, and he was wearing a Guardian cap for the rest of the year. He got a concussion. It must have been really bad because he missed like 3 weeks. But other than that, he was fine. Actually, I'm sorry. He was a guard when he was a rookie. He's actually the right tackle. So the right tackle was out for a little bit, but the offensive line was incredibly solid. They really were. Baker had 4,500 yards. He had a career high in touchdown passes, that kind of thing. He just has to slow down the interceptions. Like, you got to slow that one down. He also had as many fumbles as Kirk Cousins this year. So that's the other thing. Clean up the turnovers. Try to get Liam Cohen back as offensive coordinator, and y'all can let it ride. I think that's the whole thing. I know a lot of people want to see Todd Bowles gone. I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think he's going anywhere.
He made the playoffs.
They won the NFC South again.
It's like Mike Tomlin. Like, everyone wants Mike Tomlin out, because he's, he makes the playoffs and then what? Well, a lot of teams love to make the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah. But I think when the standard is so high, especially for like the Buccaneers, right? Or you look at the Steelers, all the Super Bowls they got in franchise history, and the Bucs. This whole thing with the Bucs is they've made the playoffs 5 years in a row. They've won the NFC South 4 years in a row. Right?
Texans.
This whole thing started with the 2020 Super Bowl run when they got Tom Brady. They obviously fell short of repeating, and then they've continued to win the NFC South. But the whole thing is like, all right, but we've won a Super Bowl. Do it again at some point. Like, you should have been able to do it again. Now, this year's squad in no way, shape, or form resembles that old squad from 2020. Like, Mike Evans is still there, Levante David's still there, but pretty much everybody else is gone. They brought a few people back from that squad. Yeah. But ultimately, like, it's a totally different team. You got a different quarterback. You got different running backs. You've got a different offensive line. Like it's not the same. And you don't have the same head coach. You don't have the same offensive coordinator. Like the 2020 team and the 2024 team are completely different. So I don't know, but I do think they have a good core. They've got a great GM in Jason Light. They've got a head coach that the locker room believes in and will fight for. They've got, the offensive coordinator. Hopefully they can keep him because he might become the Jaguars head coach. We'll see. We don't know. And I think that would be if he leaves, the bottom falls out. That means 4 offensive coordinators in 4 years for the Bucs if Liam Cohen leaves and becomes a head coach somewhere else. That's bottom is going to fall out. That's demoralizing. Wild. That's just demoralizing at that point. So that's just my rant. That's it. That's all. And to be honest with you,
it's a great season.
Yeah, great season. You won 10 games. That's awesome. But if you were going to go one and done, the Falcons could have did that. I mean, dang.
The Falcons put all his effort in, huh? Put all his effort in again to the dance and then stand on the wall.
Yeah, man. I had him going to the NFC Championship just because they were going to avoid the Lions until that point. So I was like, they should be able to beat Washington. And I think, Philly's going to be tough. But it's like they actually might be able to pull it off. You never know. Because Tampa Bay was actually a really good road team. And then I thought, okay, you're not going to beat Detroit. That's how but Washington, no, I really didn't see that coming. But you got to give him credit, man. Jaden Daniels is the truth. I saw him play in person for the first time.
Yeah, congrats. I haven't been able to do that.
Yeah, he the truth, man. He is the truth. I saw
so
him.
So is Baker, though, bro. Like, I feel like Baker proved a lot to me this year. I didn't think he was really... I thought he was one of those solid quarterbacks that, like, has good talent around him, can utilize a good talent. But this year he showed, like, he doesn't need that good talent around him. He makes people around him better. After Chris Godwin went down and Evans went down, I thought it was, season's wraps.
Yeah.
But, nah, he uplifted everyone. And I think that's something I didn't know he had in his bag, that he had the capability to do so. So, like, shout out Baker. He's worth every penny. I really do think so.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And they love him. They love him down here. He's a leader of men, so you got to give him credit for that. So, yeah, we'll see how next season goes. We will see. But for now, down here, now we're focusing on hockey and baseball, spring training coming up. So, hopefully we get a baseball player or two on here before they lock in, because that's baseball season is a nice 6 months. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. So hopefully we get somebody on here, man. But, hey, until then, we thank you guys so much for joining us today on the Believer's Bench here on Game Day Grace. Again, if you like this conversation, you can hit subscribe or follow wherever you were listening or watching, YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. You just heard my dog Bentley in the back. He's telling you to subscribe right now and share with a family or friend. And one share, remember, one share can change a life, all right? So until we see you next Wednesday, I'm David Schiele. That is Corey Mose. You guys be easy and be blessed.